Welcome to What Resonates. This podcast is about tuning into energy, intuition, and what feels true for you. Each conversation invites you to notice what sparks curiosity and feels aligned, opening a wider field of possibility for yourself and for humanity. Keep tuning in and follow what resonates. Welcome to What Resonates. I'm your host, Andrea Kennedy, and today I have a special guest, Christina Woods, and we're going to find out what resonates about her work. And we're going to talk about some pretty interesting topics. You're going to want to stick around because Christina is a clinical hypnotherapist, a rapid transformational therapist, Reiki master, and former corporate leader. She left a long corporate career and shifted into helping women move through trauma, self-doubt, and imposter syndrome and rebuild trust within themselves. I know many of us struggle with these kinds of challenges, so I'm interested to learn from Christina today. I hope our conversation offers actionable steps so we can begin a new chapter of healing and trust within ourselves. Christina L. Woods, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, fantastic. So many people, it seems, are leaving corporate life, a mainstream kind of scenario or framework that they've been, you know, trotting through, trudging through, maybe that's a better word, but they'll leave that behind and then they're coming into healing work, different modalities and trying to serve in different ways. And so you've successfully done that, which I think is quite remarkable and that's exciting in and of itself, but
It
that's
is.
just one little fragment, of what we might talk about. I'm curious to start with, was there a pivotal moment? Because these are two different worlds, and you had that other life, and now you have this other life.
Yeah,
Was there a tipping point, one moment that things changed?
there was, and you're right, there is a trend, isn't there?
Mhm.
So, yeah, there was a pivotal moment. It was not a glamorous moment, but there was a moment. I was actually pulling some weeds in my garden, and I had a moment. It was a tough time in my life. I was going through. I wasn't quite hadn't quite decided yet. I was getting divorced, but I was knowing in my energy that this was probably the direction that we were going. I was very, very burned out in corporate and just, exhausted. I had two teenage boys at the time, but I had just traveled and I was pulling some weeds and just doing a mundane thing. And I heard a voice. And this wasn't something that I typically heard. I was just a tired mom doing soccer and corporate and normal things like a lot of moms do. And I heard a voice that said, "When are you going to stop doing what makes everybody else happy and do what makes you happy?" And it literally stopped me. I was in my pajamas pulling weeds. And it wasn't my intuition. It wasn't kind of like that little voice you have in your inside. It was outside of me and it was deep and it stopped me. And I really just kind of just knew in every ounce of my being that this was a moment where I really had to reassess literally everything in my life, uh, what I was doing in corporate, my personal life, how I lived my life, why I did a lot of the things that I did, why I behaved, my behavior, everything from health, stress, everything. And so yeah, that was really a pivotal moment. And that was I didn't leave corporate that day or decide that day, but that was the pivotal moment that I decided everything would really change. And that's when it started to really I decided inside that I would start to investigate a lot of personal things and go within. And that was the moment that really began everything.
I'm curious to ask you about that because, well, my first question is, in hindsight, do you know who spoke to you that day? Did you ever find that out?
It either spirit, my higher self, someone really truly guiding me. I've heard a voice outside of me a few times, and now that I really tap in and go within, but it was really a voice that when I'm in a place where, I'm when you try too hard, you never get there. But when you're in that desperate place of, this isn't going well, and help me. And I think that's where I was, when you're pulling weeds, when you're taking a shower, when you're blow drying your hair, when you're not really thinking of anything else, aren't we really creative? Don't we tap into kind of that magic? And that's sort of where I was. I was just pulling weeds, not thinking, but I was really feeling what I was feeling. I was really tapping
Mm.
into that energy of, this isn't me. This isn't what I want. And so, yeah, tapping into my higher self and that wisdom within, and that wisdom within spoke to me.
Yeah, that is really intriguing. And I'm sure a lot of us listening or maybe watching on YouTube can relate to that, that a pivotal moment, a voice, that is different. So thank you for sharing that. So after that, you said it was, not immediate. And then you started to take some steps toward that of, going within and asking some deeper questions.
Mhm.
And so it was sort of like you kept going through the motions then, going to work, doing the mom thing and the wife thing. You kept doing that. And then but but what did that look like? Did you take classes? Did you read certain books? How did that look as you were transitioning between the 2
Yeah.
worlds?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was quite messy and beautiful at the same time. So, yeah, I had always been interested in energy and spiritual healing in my early 20s. I had actually a beautiful corporate boss who introduced me to Carolyn Mace and beautiful energy healing. And so it was part of my world, but it was very separate. It was over here, didn't really talk about it, but loved it, read about it, but also was very wrapped into climbing the corporate ladder. And, that was my external validation, completely my identity. So, what it looked like was I started diving into podcasts and energy healing, going on retreats, finding myself in Costa Rica at a events where I would meet people by myself and meditate for very long periods of time, finding a therapist. And the premise was I knew my marriage was ending after 25 years. My oldest child was about to go away to college, and who was I going to be without being, a mother and doing this and doing that? And so lots of my identity that validated I'm a good mother, I'm a good this, I'm a good who am I then if I'm not doing these things? And what I knew was that I had a lot of beliefs about myself. Why do I spend a lot of money when why do I pay my credit cards off and then they go back up? Why do I always try and people please everyone? So I decided I better find out why I do all these things. So I did the spiritual route. I also did the psychotherapy route. I did EMDR. I did Reiki. I did everything. I dove in really, really big. And I stumbled upon hypnotherapy. And it was in a meditation, a hypnotherapy type of meditation. And I wrote in a journal that the person I actually ended up studying with and meeting quite often, I wrote, Marissa Peer, hypnotherapist, is going to change my life. And so I just dove into this. And what I started learning about myself was these beliefs I had about myself, they weren't true. These beliefs that I thought, I'm bad, I'm this, I'm that, I have to overgive, I have to do so much more because I had this belief that wasn't true. And when I realized these beliefs weren't true about myself, that I had this internal wisdom that thing I thought was true was only true because I thought, as a little girl, I was, I thought that thing because I was surviving, and now I was over giving Christmas presents or over delivering in corporate because it made me feel better. I thought there's a lot of people walking around the world that have that belief too. And so that's really when I decided, wow, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go and do hypnotherapy. And I found the journal that I wrote in after about 5 years that said, hypnotherapy, this person's going to change my world. And I said, I'm going to leave corporate. I'm going to go to school and I'm going to learn this. So that's when I really decided all that corporate, beautiful skills that I learned and this wisdom, I really want to help other people that are walking around with beliefs I know are not true about them, let's erase some of these programs, some of these things that are not true, let them tap into what's true, and change what's not true about them, that lens that they're looking through.
So people pleasing and some of these things that you mentioned, just in that short couple minutes that you were talking, I know my ears perked up. That is common. People
It is.
pleasing and I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy and, all of that. Woo, I think a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of us resonate with that, and can point to that in our own lives. Is that Well, let me back up. Those kinds of limiting beliefs, where do they come from?
You know, deep down, there's so much about, this core. Somewhere along the line we disconnect from ourself, and we disconnect from some type of higher power. And whether we call that a trauma or something that happens, if whether it's this life or another life, whatever it is that we believe in, somewhere along the line there's something that happens, and it's really just the meaning that we attach to it. So, if we have a sibling, I think it's the easiest way for us to understand. We can have dinner with them and they say, I don't remember that happening. That was a great vacation. And you're saying that was the worst vacation ever, or that was a terrible experience. They're going, that was wonderful. I loved that. You're like, did you grow up in the same house as me? So it's, the meaning that we attach to it. So somewhere along the line, I think that's important to just validate our own experiences and know that whatever and however we interpreted it, at some point we, for a very good reason, detached and disconnected from ourself for self-preservation, for self, you know, for feeling safe. And I think people pleasing is part of survival. People pleasing is, let me overgive and let me feel safe so that I feel safe on the inside. Let me overgive, let me, do all these things so that I feel safe. I think the biggest misnomer out there is that people pleasing is for some other reason other than self-preservation. There's no one on the planet walking around that wants to feel abandoned or disconnected. We all need connection. I mean, this is a human need, that we all need to feel connected, and the opposite of connection is rejection. So when we beat ourselves up, like, why did I commit myself to overgive in that charity or that group, or overgive and bring an extra appetizer or whatever it might be? But really, at the end, is there's a point where we disconnected, and so we're scrambling on the outside just to feel that connection, and that lack of abandonment, and filling that void of somewhere. But if we can find that, what that point was, and reconnect it, then that need to overplease, that need to overgive, suddenly goes away, and allows us to give from a different place, allows us to give from this place of compassion for others, allows us to give from a much higher place than the need to feel needed.
Trauma is a word that we're hearing a lot these days. And while I was listening to where you went with that, I had to, I, I guess what I want to do is ask you about trauma because
Mhm.
do these limiting beliefs all go back to trauma? And, you know, do we all have trauma?
There's such a spectrum. We can have deep conversations about trauma. There's such a spectrum of trauma, but it's an imprint of an experience that is, what is the meaning that we attached, where we did not feel safe. And that energetic imprint, again, whether it was here or in another life experience, what is that energetic imprint that we did not feel safe, and we are disconnected from our sense of self and sense of something bigger than us? And what is the meaning that we've attached to it? That's the only thing that matters. So no one can interpret what trauma is for you, and ever. And it's so important that people understand that. and not and I find most people that I work with will say, "I don't wanna go there, I don't want to talk about it, it wasn't a big deal." But your body is feeling perhaps trauma where your logical mind might say, "That wasn't a big deal. That didn't that that wasn't important," or "That was my brother didn't feel that way," or "My friends or the book or the story or the movie or life or other people don't make that a big story." But your body is feeling maybe something different. And so I think when I explore that with people, listen to, how do you feel when you're reacting? How are you feeling something different? What meaning have you attached to it? Let's have compassion for what imprint does it have on your energetic body. That's the most important thing.
Do you find that a lot of this stems from our childhood? Um, is that where most of all of this comes from your perspective?
From our childhood, from this life, other lives, so often I'm working with, it's this from childhood, it can be from yesterday, it can be from, but absolutely from childhood. And I'm working with a lot of people from past lives. So again, it can be an imprint from so many different places. But yeah, and it's not because we had a bad childhood. It's because the meaning that we attach to something. And so I think also that is something that we talk ourselves out of. We will say, but I had beautiful parents, or I had people that did so good to me. And we don't allow ourselves to say, I had trauma. I have a client right now that says, that won't accept it. And doesn't mean anything wasn't, that you weren't taken care of, or, we don't allow ourselves to go there. It doesn't mean that. It means, what was the interpretation of those circumstances in your life for you that you gave it meaning to? Just that will allow you to have compassion for yourself, to see it through a different lens. Where might you not have felt safe? And then that allows you to have compassion. Think about when you have compassion for another person, how much you soften, how much it allows you to just listen differently, right?
Right. I guess I'm thinking about this in kind of, maybe this is an odd way, but this right and wrong kind of lens, because I think a lot of us look at things like that, who's right and who's wrong. And I think that can get in the way of this, because it would seem to me, if we look back, like what you're saying about, well, but I had great parents and I don't want to say, that my parents were bad,
Right.
and or they're wrong, or they were wrong. And so we might keep ourselves in these patterns because we don't want to point fingers, or, say that they were wrong. But also, what about ourselves? I mean, because aren't we all admitting also, perhaps, that we interpreted it wrongly? And so, and then we've had these patterns for decades. Ooh, that just seems pretty big, to be able to
Yeah.
go down that road and really look at this clearly with
Yeah.
compassion.
And from the lens of a 3-year-old, from the lens of a child in his or her mother's womb, listening to the mother speaking to a doctor, speaking to her mother, speaking to her future spouse or spouse, having fear of becoming a mother. So many times in this work, that's where the trauma happens, is I don't feel like I want to come into the world because my mother doesn't want me. Well, your mother doesn't not want you. Your mother's scared to become a mother because she just feels inadequate. And so we come into the world feeling not wanted. But if we look at it from the lens of, well, your mother didn't have any money, wasn't educated, didn't expect to be a mother, maybe didn't have support around her. So we look at it from such a different lens with such compassion, we're able to change the story. So there's this wonderful saying that says it's never too late to rewrite your childhood. And I think that's what this work is Yes, that's so traumatic for that child in the womb hearing that. That is trauma. But if we are able to reframe it and rewrite it and energetically change the imprint, so that is an energetic imprint, but we can change the imprint. We can heal the imprint, change the imprint. But we have to respect the imprint and then heal and change the imprint. We don't just say, of course you're meant to be here. God put you here. You're meant to be here. Move on. You're healthy and fine. Of course you're meant to be here. Then we're completely ignoring and dishonoring where there was a disconnection. There's a disconnection from self there that said, yeah, you didn't feel needed and wanted. So you disconnect from your body, you disconnect from self. Let's acknowledge and feel, what were you feeling in that moment where you didn't want to be born? You were scared. Your body was scared. Your nervous system was reacting. So let's move in and heal that. And once you feel, I belonged, I have so much compassion, I hear that, your nervous system can calm and settle and everything changes.
It seems like it's such a shift in perspective.
It is everything. It's everything. And cellularly, when it is a change in perspective, cellularly, your cells are able to, literally, your DNA, your cells can change and rewrite a different code. It's a cellular change to be able to change the vibration and the energy of a different emotion that's attached to the meaning of what happened. So it doesn't always change what happened. Traumatic things happen. A very bad thing could have happened. So we don't wipe away. Everything isn't just looking through a different lens. Some things are traumatic. Some things do happen. Wars, famines, traumatic experiences do happen. So we don't want to, pretend or discredit or say, things don't happen. So we do work with people and have to acknowledge those things happen. How do we move forward? So you are meant to be here. We do, but we can work with your nervous system to heal those things and allow ourselves to have a different imprint, to change, to heal, to speak to our body in a different way. So it's incredible.
It really is. And so would that be cellular memory then? Is that what you're talking
Yes,
about?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which totally goes to what you just said a moment ago about rewriting your childhood, rewriting your history that way. Huh. That is really
Right. And I
fascinating.
mean, we know from all the work of the incredible people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and all the incredible healers out there before and ahead of us, and Western medicine and Eastern and so on, how powerful that is. So, it's so amazing to be able to, even the work with Reiki and hypnotherapy, to be able to speak to our bodies and understand, well, what is the trauma that your body has absorbed and taken in? Let's listen, let's talk. And I think that's where we are afraid sometimes to go in and listen and say, well, what is it that you feel has happened? What is the trauma that your body has has absorbed and taken in? Because we're afraid it's going to be really bad and really ugly, and we don't want to talk about it. But normally when we do that, especially in hypnosis, we're able to take out all the logic and all the things. We can just say, okay, this is the story that I'm telling myself. This is the story in my body, the imprint my body. This is what happened. This is how I'm feeling. This is why I feel unsafe. Great. Let's go in and talk and heal and hear, and what does it need to feel safe? What would help it feel safe? How are you helping to awaken me? We need to listen.
Yeah, it feels courageous, to do
Mhm.
this work.
Mhm.
And so I would imagine it must feel like such an honor for you to witness these transformations with your
Oh,
clients.
absolutely. And I do work with a lot of healers, and sometimes as a healer, we think, I've done so much healing, I've heard all these things, but then to say, how are you helping to awaken me? What do I need? And just to be in absolute awe to hear what it needs. It's like, wow, I hadn't,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that it still needed that.
Yeah, it must be such a discovery process. I mean, amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
because there's layers, our evolution of our healing and what our body needs. So, yeah,
So, if we want to maybe look at what is really common with people, and we already mentioned a couple things, but imposter syndrome. A lot of people who tune into the show are in the healing arts, that they are wanting to help people, and perhaps they're into Reiki or hypnosis or sound healing, whatever it is. But I hear so much. Well, I'll say two things. There's such an opening right now for healing, for healers to be helping people. And people are answering the call. I think a lot of people
sure.
are entering into studying these things and offering services to each other and that kind of thing. Of course, we need to heal ourselves and all of that too along the way. And I think for a lot of us, we think we're going to go save the world, and then we realize, oh, yeah, I think I need to help myself too.
Yeah.
But in all of that, that I just kind of spew out there, my point is that many of us are driven to help right now. We live in these amazing times of great possibility, but so much healing is needed. Imposter syndrome is huge for healers. And one of the things I wanted to discuss with you today is imposter syndrome, because if we can address that, I think we would have more healers out there able to help. And
Mm.
so, can you speak specifically about imposter syndrome and, what you've learned about it and what we can do?
Boy, you're right. There's such a calling and we need it, no, regardless of whatever your healing modality or service is in the world, serve. So, you know, imposter syndrome is just preventing and stopping you from being your authentic self, and that comparinitis and getting out there and looking on Instagram and she does it this way or that way, it just sabotages everything. So it's just that fear of being authentically you. If you detach in any way for a moment from your why, it completely destroys. So really finding out what is what is blocking you. So if we don't start digging in and getting into the layers of what prevents us and stops us from our why, but I think you have to be really, really clear on why do you want to serve? Why do you want to be a healer? Because every day you have to remind yourself of why you want to be a healer. It's not just, it's not just, I want to help people. Why do you want to help people? And really get in tune with that, because imposter syndrome is going to creep up and you really need to be in tune with that. But the blocks of, it's really about not feeling safe. So why do we not want to feel safe? So really moving into the direction of, okay, if you don't want to feel safe, it's really, what words are you saying to yourself? What things are you saying to yourself every day? You know, getting online, for a long time in the beginning, I think I lasted maybe 6 months to a year where I just had to tell myself, do not go online and look at anyone else and what they're doing. Because of course, in the beginning, or even even experienced people, there's always somebody doing it different. Just trust that what you're doing is your way, and it's okay to do it a different way. But the words that you're saying to yourself, I think that, we have to remember imposter syndrome is, we are sabotaging, it's just a form of sabotage. And I think the more we realize imposter syndrome is really a form of feeling I'm not enough. What is I'm not enough? Let me stop you from being your authentic self. Let me stop you because I want to keep you safe. Why do I want to keep you safe? Because I don't want to keep you hurt. And why do I not want to keep you hurt? Because I'm afraid you're going to disconnect. And I want to keep you, I don't want to keep you. There were so many times where if we were not connected, we were rejected. When you get out there and you become your authentic self, you might get rejected. And if you're rejected, you're not going to be connected and loved. So, imposter syndrome is just that fear that you're going to be kicked out of the herd and rejected. And that's a natural fear. And that's a normal fear. So, really, just what are you saying to yourself daily? Like, I'm enough. And really saying kind words to yourself, but it's not affirmations, but really making sure that we're really having a support group, having people that say really good things to us and really affirm what we're doing. But I'm not sure that enough healers really tap into their why enough. I'm just like you, I'm sure we're in a lot of groups with a lot of other healers, but if we really listen and talk to each other, sometimes it's like, I really just want to help. Why do you want to help? Really tapping into your why and every day connecting to that is so important.
I agree with you too about the why and needing to know about the why. And that can be sort of like a beacon, right? Like that guiding light that kind of keeps you on track. The thing that you said, though, it's about self sabotage and not feeling good enough and that kind of thing. What are the other ways that we're sabotaging ourselves? Because if I'm hearing you correctly, there, if we have imposter syndrome, are we having other, behaviors in our life probably that we are playing out all rooted in self-sabotage, and imposter syndrome's just one example?
Sure, sure. So you're procrastinating, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you're probably not going to bed on time, you're not eating well, you're not grounding. So all the things that go along with imposter syndrome are okay. So if I don't feel good enough, you're not going to do, we postpone all the things that we're meant to do. And I think we start to tell our stories like, maybe I'm not tech savvy. Well, you know, tech savvy is not really that big of a deal because there's chat gpt and there's YouTube and we can figure it out, or we can hire a younger person to help us. So it starts to shape into procrastination or slowing us down or not going to bed on time and getting tired, or we start not eating healthy and our body is not energetically grounded and we leave our body and we're not grounded, we're out here. So it shows up in so many other ways where we spend the money we don't have. We're sabotaging all these other areas of our life, relationships, we're not as close with people. So, sabotage is that thing that stops us from doing what we want to do. We start to beat ourselves up. Maybe I need to go get another part time job to support my healing because healers, don't make as much money. We start to tell ourselves these other stories when really at the end of the day, none of it is true. There's plenty of healers that work full time doing this, but really all those things are just protecting us from really branching out, because at the end of the day, if you step out and be visible, you might get judged. And you don't want to get judged because then people might criticize you. Yeah, you might get criticized. And what happens if you get criticized? It doesn't feel good. And so I'd rather you procrastinate and not do it than get criticized. So, procrastination, sabotage, all the things, it's really at the end of the day protecting us. But if we get criticized now, it's not the end of the world. It might not feel good, but it's not the end of the world. So, our subconscious mind is here to protect us. It's not to help us become successful. Our subconscious mind doesn't know how old we are. I think it's really important to remember our subconscious mind is a million times more powerful than our logical mind. So when we see imposter syndrome pop up, I think it's important to just say, hey, is that even the truth? Is that the truth? Or is that maybe a safety mechanism here that's just trying to really stop me from doing something more courageous in my life? Is that even the truth? If I did get judged right now, would that even be a big deal? Well, maybe, maybe not. Probably not right now. If I procrastinated from being judged, maybe a long time ago that would have been a big deal, but right now if I got judged and did a live and did something to get more clients, then that wouldn't be a big deal. So our subconscious mind is so powerful, but it often is only here to keep us safe, not to really thrive as a healer and grow our business. And I think that's really important to remember.
Yeah, it seems like it's vulnerability is kind
Mm.
of coming up for me. That idea of, we don't want to make ourselves vulnerable because, oh, then that rejection or something like that is really, uh, ooh, it stings, quite a bit. So that fear. But I'm wondering, I guess, about how to shift this. And you have learned a lot. You've done different kinds of modalities, and you landed primarily, if I'm not mistaken, on hypnotherapy. Why that? Why that modality? Why does that sing to you? And why do you concentrate with hypnotherapy?
Because it's important to find out exactly what is blocking, say, for example, the imposter syndrome, the vulnerability. So for me, hypnosis is allowing us to go into the most suggestible part of our mind and access and find out, without logic, without the stories, without our beautiful minds that can explain things. It quiets that part, and it just beautifully allows us to access, to me, a portal into such a spiritual part of us, and finds out, why is it that imposter syndrome is in your life right now? Why is it that money is an issue, or relationships, or this health issue is in your mind? And we go right to scenarios or situations or w- examples in your mind, and we're able to see the energetic imprint and say, oh, okay, that is going on in your life. And we're able to see and explain beliefs that you have. And then we can assess and say, that's the truth, that's not the truth, that was then, this is now. What can we do about it? And change it, and change a belief. And the way we change it is we're able to say, yes, that did happen then. Or, okay, wait, that was your view as a 5-year-old then, or in that life, that was reality. You are in this life now, whatever the situation is, but this is now. And so through this lens, let's change it. And so it's the most suggestible part of your mind. So if we want to make changes, it makes a lot of sense to make it through the most suggestible part of our mind. And I make audio recordings for people, and they listen to them over and over and over and over for about 21 to 45 days, over and over. And that is how we change imposter syndrome, vulnerability, wherever we want to become more empowered, change a belief, change our cells, change healing something. And so to me, it was the most pure, simple, beautiful way to find access to an area to make a big change in people's lives.
Can everyone do this? I mean, can everyone be hypnotized?
Absolutely. And I everybody doesn't believe that they can, but they can. And I think it just depends, some people have more anxiety, some people have more fear, some people need a little bit more, patience and guidance. They might need a few more sessions to calm down and build trust before we do hypnotherapy. And I think some people will say, I tried it and didn't work. But I just think they need to find the right person that they connect with and get into the right energy before they do it. But we all have a subconscious mind, and it's just like anything. You got to find the right person to do it with.
It sounds like, too, you're just really getting underneath all the noise of the thinking mind and the rational thing, all the stories that we tell ourselves, just really going beyond all that,
Yeah,
not listening to that anymore.
exactly. And we we all have that. We all have a lot of noise, and so it's just a place where we all can access. It's not an invented place. It's our brain, a brainwave state where we get to quiet the analytical mind and access and say, hey, let's ask this mind a question. It'll take you right there and be able to look and say, oh wow, I hadn't even thought about that, or I forgot about that, or I didn't know that. And wow, let me look into that. It's like watching a movie and then take it back and say, wow, I hadn't thought about it. I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense. It's in, and then be able to reinterpret it, create a new story, a new belief, and be able to move forward with it.
Is hypnosis the same as a meditative state? If we were just to sit and meditate and the brain quiets down, what's the difference there?
It is. Not everyone gets into that theta brainwave in a meditative state. If you meditate deeply, yes, you do. So it's just gets you there quicker. If you are in, if you're regular, meditate regularly, if that's a good practice. But it just is a much faster way to get there. But yeah, it is a meditative state. So it feels like a meditation. It doesn't feel like a trance. I think they say it, a trance-like state. People think, oh, great, I'm not going to have any control. Nobody wants to sign up for that. But, you still hear the dog bark. You still hear alarms, cars alarm goes off. We're talking the entire time. So
Mm,
yes, it's a meditative state, but it's also, you're still aware. You're still talking.
right. Well, and part of the beauty of this, I think, too, is that you're there, to facilitate. If I just meditate on my own, I'm just kind of going to go do whatever, in that state.
Right.
I'm kind of on my own. But to
Yeah.
have you there, you can help carry forward a certain trajectory or a path to get to the heart
It's
of,
guided.
yes, to get to the heart of, what we're really looking at. And, you know, there's got to be some accountability there too, because if
Yeah.
we're kind of avoiding things in our life, we probably need a little bit of guidance, there to be accountable and
Yeah, it's
move for the
guided. And
progress, right?
right. And, whether someone comes for, I need to feel more confident or more self esteem, or I want to grow my business, it's like a cobweb. I will say that always their relationships will also change. Finances will also change. Health is always impacted because everything is always connected. So it's always so beautiful. Like little surprises will pop up and they'll say, gosh, I didn't even know I was going to come to you and talk about my children or this part of my life, but it's all connected. It's nothing's really separate.
Yeah, and so what do people notice? I mean, how does this work show up in the everyday life? Can you give us some examples of that? Because we've talked a lot about what it looks like when there is trauma playing out.
Sure.
We've talked a lot about that. So as things start to shift, what happens in everyday life?
Well, for example, businesses. So if you're having a business, I would say you become a lot more courageous to go do the things you want to do. So I actually just yesterday got a text from a client who is a executive coach and healer in the Chicago area, and she had her business for about 20 years, but she wanted to put together a beautiful online video type of a course for the executives that she worked with. And she came to me because she was so nervous to even create the videos. So imagine having a very successful business where she would go out and present and do well. But when it came to do videos, she just couldn't do it. And it was about a deep rooted past about a parent who was a perfectionist and she just couldn't get past it, a military parent and so on. So we worked together and she just sent me a big text yesterday. She said, you never believe it, I finally put this thing out there. It's doing so well. It's helping so many people. It's doing financially very well. It's helping people all over the world now. So, it can just expand your business. I have another client who just got married. She had, quite a few codependent relationships where, she had been successful in her business and in many other areas, but she's like, I can never find love. I find I'm always with people who, that's just not the area of my life. I'm successful in all these other areas, but not this area of my life. And she just, now has found someone. So, I think what it does is it allows you to have be able to boundaries and speak up for yourself and take care of yourself and be able to call in and be that vibrational match for that which you deserve. So relationships, businesses, have stronger relationships with your children, have those conversations that are really difficult to have, to be able to eat well and have the body that you want. I have another client who came to me for AFib and heart issues, and she was able to finally align herself. And her belief was, medically, I'm never going to find anyone that can help me, because she had struggled with it forever. And now she has aligned herself with the right medical team, and she's aligned and healthy and on a way. And this is a lifetime since she was a child of never ever being healthy, never being able to go to school, never being a regular child of playfulness, and now she has the right medical team to help her. So to have that belief that no one can help me, I cannot heal, to I am able to heal, I am able to have a functional, normal life, I can travel, I can be healthy, to I am worthy of being healed, I can be healthy, to having that now, that's life changing. That's huge. You
Mm.
have to believe it to align with it. If you don't believe it, you can't align with it. You have to believe it.
Yeah, I think there's something to that too, because belief, in the Reiki world, Reiki works whether you believe in it or not, right?
Correct.
Which
Correct.
this is very different than. That's really fascinating.
It's both. You're right. It's both. So you don't have to believe in hypnotherapy for it to work. You don't have to believe in, or you don't have to understand subconscious and all those things for it to work. But the belief has to change. Your beliefs create your reality in our subconscious. Our beliefs are our reality. So if I believe I cannot heal, or I believe I, I'm not enough, then I'm going to do the things in my life to feel validated on the outside, because I'm not enough on the inside. So yes.
Hmm. Yeah, that is really, I don't know. I think I might have to ponder some of
Yeah.
that later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It is different. You're
really
right.
interesting.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it's really interesting.
You're
Huh.
right. Because we are
So,
enough. We're born enough. We don't look at a baby and say, you better go, get a job, so you are enough. You're enough already.
right.
But boy,
Yeah.
we grow up and all of a sudden we feel, I better go do these things to feel validated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
belief is there, but it's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah, the limiting beliefs are just everything. Yeah. Um, and so I guess I want to ask you, this might be another tangent, but empaths. So there are so many people out there that, at least in my world, and they think of themselves, or they define themselves as empathic, very sensitive energetically, pick up other people's energies and
Mhm.
things like that. But it seems like when we talk about what you do, whoa, I don't know. How does that fit in? Do you, uh, 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 what's your understanding of empaths and how they're moving about the world? I don't know. Do you have any insight about empaths today?
I mean, most clients I work with are empaths. I'm an empath.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually why I learned Reiki, because when I first started doing the work, actually, I was getting sick, and I always knew I was empathic, but because I started doing the work, I actually would run to the restroom and get sick, and so I
Oh,
learned
no.
Reiki to protect my energy.
Mm,
And because I thought I just left corporate and now I'm running and throwing up, and so I learned Reiki,
yeah.
and it instantly changed my life. So you know I is I mean, there's such a big question, so I
Well, whatever resonates with you as far as that. It's just that I just feel like what the work that you're doing, and addressing limiting beliefs and how they're playing out in our lives, there just seems like, I don't know, there's something there about the fact that there are so many empaths out there that are having imposter syndrome, that are feeling like they're not enough. They're taking on other people's energy. And then when you take in what your approach is, empowering people,
Yeah.
being able to say no, holding boundaries and all of that. I don't know. I apologize for putting it out there in such a nebulous way, but
No, yeah.
it's just there's something here I feel like that needs
Yeah,
to maybe
the
come to
first
the
thing that comes
surface.
to me intuitively is that even as an empath, we're accountable to be accountable for, you know, our our energy and what we feel. And because I feel sometimes as an empath, even with a lot of the clients that I work with, is we can get so absorbed with, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling this. So I think it's a time to step up and be accountable for what is our energy and what is someone else's. Yes, we are empathic in terms of being able to support others, but being accountable to the power of separating and being accountable, what is our energy? Because until we are, it can get a little muddy. And there's a lot of power when we are accountable to our own energy, then we're better able to serve and really use energy healing and really move forward. Um, many clients are, when we're empathic, I think it just can blurry things quite a bit. So it's such a blessing, but also can muddy things. And I'm so empathic, I it can just be this spinning thing of keeping us in, I have to heal. So I think I'm instantly just heard, like, let's be accountable to what is mine and what is yours, if that makes sense.
I think so because, I talk about sovereignty a lot,
Exactly.
that we're sovereign in our energy and that kind of thing. And it seems like your approach and how you're serving, how you're helping is to bring people into sovereignty,
Hmm.
and recognize that power that they have to shift who they think they are, how they're showing up in the world, and how they're interacting with other people. And that is what I'm hearing you say
Yeah.
about, you know, making that determination. This is my energy, that's your energy. And, as we perhaps come into that alignment with who we are, how we're showing up, and start healing those things, from perhaps our past, we're able then to have a clarity and allow other people their own path, their own journey.
Right.
And then if we do want to serve, if we are looking to put, ourselves into a healer role or something like that where we're assisting people, that just seems so healthy to
Right.
have that sort of separation that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um Wow. With all the things going on in the world, Christina, a lot of the uncertainty and, all of that kind of thing, has that impacted y your practice and how people coming to you? Have you seen a difference in the last few years,
Mhm.
given the climate of life on planet Earth
Yeah.
right now?
Even more and more, I'm having more clients come to me and ask me to help them tap into their intuition and not feeling fulfilled. You know,
Mm,
I work with a lot of, mm, I would say, successful, or I have enough of, finances and all the boxes checked, but I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled. And that is leaving them unsettled. Like, I want to feel fulfilled. I don't feel something feels off, because there's so many material things that we've been told are what we're supposed to strive for. And I want to feel in tune with myself. I'm not connected with myself. So I have had a huge rise in working with people. So it's sovereignty, connected to self, intuition, trusting self. This is really important to me.
Yeah, me too. And yeah, I just got goosebumps. So
Mhm.
that's kind of fun. Yeah, because 100 years ago, I mean, we couldn't be doing any of this stuff. People weren't interested in this, right?
Right.
Yeah, what an interesting time to be doing this work and
I
meeting people
know.
such as yourself, and I mean, wow, it just gives me such hope for us, you know?
Oh, I know. I know. And to leave what I was doing to do this is amazing.
Yes, yes, and I think too, I just wanna underscore that you pivoted in such a remarkable way, and it wasn't too late. I mean, I think so many people think, "Oh, well, this is my life and what I'm doing," and, and I would say, "No, it's never too
I
late,"
was
right?
50. I was
Yeah,
50. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, because life just goes on and on and on. I mean,
Yeah.
who we don't wanna stand still, that'd just be
Mm-mm.
terrible, but
Mm.
wow. If somebody is, stirred by what you're presenting, how you're talking about this, what is the one message that you'd like to get across to them? And then we'll share how they can connect with you too, but is there one message that you'd really like to get out to people today?
Sure. So you have the answers inside of you. So if you do feel stuck, because we feel stuck sometimes, then let's pluck it out. You have the answers inside of you. And sometimes we just need support. We need a little help with something. So we have the answers inside. You have the ability to heal within. And that's I think really important to remember.
Yeah. It's funny because as you were talking, I was like, yeah, haven't we heard that a million
A
times? You have
million.
the
I know.
answers within you. You have
I
the
know. I know.
and how many of us have been like, well, where are they?
Where is it? Help me
Yeah,
get
it's
it
like
out.
great, great, but what you do and how you bring in hypnosis to this, I mean, wow, that is really cool because it very much for so many people could be that key that unlocks that because the answer I think everybody can I'm I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to say I think uh, most everybody at least in our audience probably, would say, "Yeah, I do believe that the answers are within me, but it's the getting to them
Yeah, and
is
that's why I
is
say
the
feel
challenge."
stuck because I feel like we know where we're stuck.
Mhm.
And you don't have to know the answers. You don't have to know any of that. You can just say, I kind of feel stuck over here. I feel sluggish. I don't know how to move forward over here. That's fine. That's all you need to know. And then we can
Yes.
figure the rest out.
I love that. Yeah, we'll just figure the rest out. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So how can our audience connect with you, Christina?
So my website is the easiest way, and I have lots of free opportunities on there too, but ChristinaLWoods.com.
ChristinaLWoods.com. We will put that most definitely in the show notes for
Thank you.
everybody and underneath the video on YouTube as well. Wow, what an interesting conversation. The subconscious mind, right? Wow. We're
It's incredible. Yep.
it just holds so much potential for us. And thank you for shining a light on that and being here with us
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you for tuning in. Keep trusting your truth, keep listening to your inner wisdom, and keep following what resonates. To sign up for the newsletter, leave a review, or connect, visit whatresonatespodcast.com. You'll also find everything linked in the show notes.